I'm pissed. I'm royally pissed. My country had an exclusive red carpet event advanced preview screenings for this movie with Tom Cruise and all the stars there as well, and I didn't get invited? Do you know who the fuck I am? I know, buddy. Still. Sadly, after 5 years. All jokes aside though, I am slightly annoyed. Being a movie reviewer, I always want to view movies first, and when the rare opportunity comes when there is one of these really cool events, like, I'd obviously want to be there, and if I was a somebody, I'd probably get instantly invited. Now you might be wondering, or not wondering, but I'm going to mention it anyway, why didn't I go if it was just in my country? Long story short, it was in Sydney, I'm in Melbourne. Yeah, that's not too big of a problem, but nobody told me there was an event there prior, so I found out really late, and when I found out, I didn't have time to put in my leave, so I couldn't even go there. So yeah, that's story of my life. Man, Sydney gets all the exclusive events. So yeah, instead of viewing it this Monday, instead it's Saturday. I had to wait until today, which is a shame because this movie was pretty freaking epic, as you'd expect, right? It was thrilling, exhilarating, fun, exciting. I mean, if you watched any of the Mission Impossible movies, like any of the previous ones, namely from Ghost Protocol onwards, since that was like the first movie with the more like the updated modern visuals or cinematography, then I mean, you know exactly what you're going into. This movie is an extension of what was already a great franchise, and it's basically all you'd expect from a Mission Impossible movie. Now brace yourself guys, this might be a long review. I'm guesstimating around 20 minutes, maybe a bit less, but around then. Quite long for most of my reviews. Most of them are like around 10 minutes-ish. But it's because, you know, I haven't talked about Mission Impossible on this channel before, so instead of making individual videos on like each movie, I'm just gonna condense it all down into this one singular video, kind of like what I did with Indiana Jones and Insidious. But honestly, for the sake of this video, I'm not going to go like movie by movie, you know. Let me just sum it up by saying, here's my rating for every movie before this one. My favorites were 6, Fallout, and Mission Impossible 3, mainly because 6 had my favorite stunts, fights, and also the villain, and also the sub-villain, I guess. I mean, Henry Cavill was like probably my favorite addition to this franchise. And that Halo jump scene, easily one of the best scenes in a Mission Impossible movie. I think I actually mentioned this in one of my previous reviews. I'm definitely sure I mentioned it. I'm not sure which one though. But that one was wildly fun, and the fact that they actually did that in real life, man, when the audio cut out during the lightning strike moment, I heard some people in my theater just gasp because it was deafening. And I especially love when I'm in the theater and like stuff like that happens, when the sound just does that and instantly goes quiet. Like, it just feels so immersive and just so intense, and yeah, pretty cool. And through the countless amount of movies that I've watched in the last 5 years, that I still remember that whole experience. I still remember that. It was great. 3 would be my second favorite, mainly for the story. It was the movie that was key to understanding Ethan's backstory and his choices for the next few movies, as that's like the first movie with his wife, and that part becomes such an integral part of these movies. The bad guy was also pretty memorable, and I hated his guts. And I mean, that's a sign of a good villain, right? When you actually just really just hate him. And the story was also pretty emotional because it was very personal to Ethan. The only thing I didn't like about that movie though was the obnoxious, like, very obvious film grain that was like, I don't know, it was like the first Mission Impossible movie to feature such a thing. Like, that film grain was just horrendous. I mean, I'm sure other movies around that era, probably around the era, didn't that release in like the early 2000s? I can't remember, but I'm pretty sure other movies had that, you know. But like, I'm just saying, I'm not a big fan of that kind of thing. Whenever I play video games, the first thing that I turn off is the freaking film grain, if I can find it, and motion blur. But that's besides the point. I don't know why I'm talking about this. The rest, 1 and 2, were largely forgettable. More so the second one, I'd say. And I mean, I do like Ghost Protocol and Rogue Nation, but I legit watched those last night, and the only things I can really remember from those movies were the Burj Khalifa scene and the underwater scene in both respective movies. Maybe it's because I watched them in quick succession, easily lost focus at some parts, and didn't watch them in such an immersive setup, like going to cinemas or whatever, where I didn't have as many distractions. Regardless, though, I mean, I realized that the movies that I tend to forget, they had a story that I just really didn't care for at all. They were either too generic or too convoluted or both, and I figured it out. In these movies, all I mainly cared about was the fighting, the stunts, the badass creative action sequences, the great sound and music, and anything related to Ethan's personal life I loved, which is why I loved 6 and 3 so much. A good Mission Impossible movie also has a good villain as well. The most memorable Mission Impossible movies for me always had a great villain to go alongside it. And I don't need a huge, big, convoluted plot. I need something that's unique and interesting, but I need something simple to understand. Because at least for me, for these movies, at least the later ones, the story is definitely not what I come for, And I think the new Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 movie, with all that I've said, everything that I've said, handled it quite well. Finally, we get to this movie. Sorry for waiting. I had to lay the foundation, right? But for the next movie, which comes out, I think, in a year. Damn. That's pretty neat because, I need the next part of anything to come out within a year. But in that movie, in that review, there'll be less, So Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 is the first part of a 2-part movie where Ethan Hunt and his IMF team must track down a terrifying new, incredibly technological and advanced weapon that will threaten humanity on a global scale if it falls into the wrong hands. And throughout this movie, a deadly race around the globe begins, where a new powerful enemy from Ethan's past always seems to be one step ahead of him and his team. At least I think is new. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I haven't really seen that guy, Gabriel, throughout the last couple of movies. I could be... I don't think I'm wrong, but yeah, I wish he would have been in some of the other movies, but it's they kind of added... It's they retconned him in or whatever, but it's whatever though. But anyway, I read the reason for them splitting up this movie was because it grew to a larger scale than they had anticipated, I guess. And I mean, I don't really mind. Sure, there's a cliffhanger and everything is in the balance. This story is not yet finished. But I definitely like it because it allowed the story much more breathing room. And so it felt way easier to digest in this movie because it felt slowed down. But that being said, though, it's still pretty generic. It's really generic. Like your average action movie. And, it's just Ethan Hunt, with his team, trying to save the world yet again. In, your average action movie. I was still interested and intrigued on what they were trying to do and what their mission was. It was still very interesting, mainly because we don't really know what's going to happen next. And sure, it was thrilling, action-packed, adventurous, exhilarating, what you'd expect from a Mission Impossible movie. But I'm going to be brutally honest, right? After seeing so much of these movies, kind of loses its substance a bit. Some of the action felt a bit repetitive, and I felt like it just needed a little bit more creativity. However, the car chases, the stunts still felt fresh, and that whole final act was insanely fun. Pom Klementieff was a great addition as well. but I don't think she was used as much as she should have been used. During the movie, she kind of showcased that she had this really cool samurai sword or something like that. I don't even think she even got to use it. It was like a prop. So that's a shame. And also, I don't know about the new main villain. I neither liked him or disliked him from like a pure character standpoint, not really villain, because obviously most people don't like the villains or whatever, but like from a pure character perspective, not the best, not the worst. I mean, he's okay, I guess, like mainly because we don't really, he's kind of retconned in, and there's still more to come. Look, I don't know if I enjoyed this as much as the 99% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes shows it as. But then again, those are never that accurate. But in my opinion, like, the only things I really remember from this movie, the only 3 things I really remember is, like, the main story leading up to the next, that car chase in Rome, and the whole final act. And maybe something else that I'm not going to mention because I don't want to spoil anything. The apparently biggest stunt in cinema history or whatever, not going to lie, was just a tad underwhelming. Maybe because there was like so much hype around it that and also because I kind of expect so much from these movies at this point. But everything after that was just pure madness and super enjoyable. Honestly though, that final act with that whole train sequence, I mean, it might not be as spectacular as some things in the past, like the Burj Khalifa or the Halo diving scene, but that final act was definitely worth the admission price alone. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's pretty intense. But with that being said though, like, not sure if this movie, like I said, is as good as some people are saying it is. And I'm saying that like truthfully and honestly, because I don't want to get caught in all of this overhyping that the media does and everything, right? But then again, this is coming from a guy who reviews movies and someone who has seen just so many action movies that they all kind of feel mushed together in a way, like I said. So take of it what you will. I mean, I'm sure the common audience, will enjoy this one to pieces. And who wouldn't? Tom Cruise is a beast and extremely lovable by his audience, a lot because of how he does most of his own stunts and is a crazy daredevil. I mean, I saw something, I'm not sure when, I'm pretty sure it was last year, but when Tom Cruise was promoting the new Top Gun movie, he was on the set of this movie, the new Mission Impossible movie, and he was just casually recording something on the fly, talking to the audience while just skydiving down into the abyss, trying to get a shot, trying to get this shot right in this new movie. Bro, when I saw that, I was like, better than, well, dude, like, if I let's just put it this way, if I didn't like him as much as I do, as I already did, I like him even more. Look, ultimately, Dead Reckoning Part 1 was all you'd expect from a Mission Impossible movie. A semi-decent story with decent thrills, insane action, and an overall fun time. And it might just be me when I say this, but it doesn't really feel like it offers anything more than what most Mission Impossible movies in the past has already offered. And because of that, this one just feels like another okay movie. I mean, like I said, it doesn't really offer anything more than what I've seen before. So, where's the uniqueness? Where's the special qualities that defines it? I guess it is the first Mission Impossible movie with a part 1. So, there's that. Look, I still had a fun time with it though. I'm not gonna lie, but I think it might be my 3rd favorite in the series. I don't know. After the Mission Impossible 3, I'm not sure. But yeah, in the end, they all kind of just blend together, and where in the future, all I'm going to remember are just the big stunts. I mean, that's what I remember from the past few. I will say though, this movie definitely felt a bit, like, it felt kind of shorter than it was. Maybe it's either because not too many things happen, or it flew by because of how much fun it was, or both. I mean, it was like, what, 2 hours and 40 something minutes long? That's like 20 something minutes longer than the last one, which was the longest Mission Impossible movie to date. And this is the first part of the story, so that's crazy, you know, to think about. That's a long movie, but it just didn't feel that long, man. So yeah, I mean, it just, for that to have felt like it flew by, I'm gonna say that's a good thing. I'm going to give Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 a B+, or A-. I don't know. You know what's crazy, man? I initially rated Fallout an A+ back when I first watched it 5 years ago in 2018. Wow. I mean, I definitely don't feel that way now. I was like an A at best, or like a, I don't know, but man, then again, that was 5 years ago me, so a lot of things have changed. But I definitely don't think that in the last rewatch. And like I said, final summary, okay? I like these movies, but they just, in the end, just feel pretty generic. I think the thing that defines it, though, is Tom Cruise and his stunts. That's basically kind of it, I guess. The most memorable things have been the stunts, and that's why I rate Mission Impossible 3 highly, because the story was actually very captivating. And even though that movie, if I'm correct, doesn't have that many stunts, or definitely not to the level that Ghost Protocol and the newer ones have, it just, the story was very captivating, and you don't really get that in any of the other movies. But I mean, then again, like, it is hard to always come up with the best, so it's whatever. But yeah, I do appreciate how the next film comes in like a year. That is very soon. That is very soon. Maybe my thoughts on this movie will change, or I'll add more to this video. I think I will, honestly, because I don't think I talked about every aspect of this film. But then again, my voice is kind of hoarse now, and I've talked about basically the summary of what I think. So yeah, but for now, this is what I think. This is everything in this video is what I think about this movie. And yeah, that's it, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know what you think down below. Like and sub if you enjoyed. And as always, feel free to check out any of my previous videos. Until next time.